Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to introduce your MC, Dr. Olson.
There we go. Well, I believe in free speech. I think that's why they got me, because it's free. But I want to thank you all for coming. We want to get the celebration going here. I don't know, I thought maybe I was getting a little bit too old to do this. I'm not really sure. You know, when you get old, the first thing that starts to happen is your eyesight fails. And then, secondly, your memory starts to slip. And then third, I can't remember where we're going. My wife said that this tournament took a lot out of me. Said that I went up there as fit as a fiddle and I came home about as tight as a drum. But so when I came home, she said I looked like a snapdragon. I don't know if that was a compliment or not, but she said I lost my snap and I started dragging. I know the kids had a great time down there, and I kind of kept tabs on them and what they were doing, and in a little while I'll give you a report. Might be a little surprising. But maybe we'll get the thing going here, and we'll get everyone to stand up and get everybody introduced. And we'll start right out at 98 pounds. We'll get Todd Olson to stand up, and his parents, I think they're here. Bob and Barb, are they here? 112 pounds, Todd and Merritt, and Marianne and Todd. Gosh, I think he must have grown about 20 pounds since I saw him. Mike Burt at 119. 126, Gerry and his parents, Nodia and Joan Strowski. $132 was Todd Cack and his parents, Audrey and Leroy. Might as well take the next two together. 138, that would be the smallest of the two. Larry, you stand. 167, Gerry. And the parents, Mary and Merritt. Are they here? There's another guy. And we've got some confusion here. 145 pounds. Oh, there. I know his mother's here. David Olson and his mother Joan. By the way, I think it's your birthday today, so happy birthday. About forgot in the heat of battle. David Christianson at 155 and Marion Joan at 12. What's this trooper? Where did we get that? You don't want to say, okay. They give a Harlem trooper all the time. 185, Nathan Palm, his parents, Darlene and Gold. And the heavyweight, Wayne Cole, his parents, Dwayne and Alice. I think they... Alternates have done a good job this year. In Cleveland, Jim and Cynthia. And let's see, we have two more alternates. Todd Burkus, James and Tate. And lastly, the other alternate, Tim Hoggy, and his parents Chuck and Lois. Manager Terry Cat. And then the best part of the whole thing are the cheerleaders. No? Well, I think they agree. Sonia Luters and Dave and Arlene. Julie Dreesen and mother Allie, is she here? No? Shelley Burkus, Dave and Connie. And Stacy Mortensen and parents Loretta and Todd. And advisor Teresa Beast. Well, that takes care of the introductions. We've got coaches. Well, I think we're going to get to them now. There's something special in store for them. But I promised the people that I'd check on you, and you saw me around the Ramada once in a while and seeing what you were doing, so that probably I'd kind of report now. This might start right down at the end. Todd, as you all know, did a very good job with his wrestling down there. He won most of his matches. You can't ask for any more than that. But he won all of the matches with the cheerleaders. And I think that's at the other end of the line, Wayne Toll, just a kind of a contrast in size and probably attitudes too, because I asked Wayne about that. I said about the girls, and he said he was unalterably opposed to women. And he said he was going to be a bachelor as long as he could, because he said a bachelor is a guy that never makes the same mistake once. Sometimes when kids get done wrestling, they go on to another sport. Football players and all this, they usually, what they have to do, they go on and play golf. And I asked Todd Merritt if he was going to go on and play golf, and he said, no way. He said, so why not? He said he just didn't have the vocabulary for it. Now, let's see, what did Mike do? Well, this guy was running around the Ramada with that crazy t-shirt and all that writing on there. You probably remember the poem he had on his shirt. It said, it's not the cough that sets you off, it's the cough when you go off it. He said he was really quite pessimistic about his dad's business, he said. He really was. He said that for some reason he was always going in the hole. We got a good bunch of mixture here of city boys and farm boys, and they really get along good together. They really did. They were a good bunch of kids, but whenever they could, they tried to get something on each other. And Gerry was pretty slick. He tried to get my son to fall for it. He said, David, he says, what do you get if you cross a rooster with a rooster? David looked at him, and he's kind of confused as usual, but he said, finally he said, I think you'd get a very cross rooster. You notice that some of the kids had some injuries. I'm going to take a look at those over there. Gerry, Quincy knows, look at his right ear, it looks quite bad. I said to Gerry, my gosh, how did you do it, Gerry? He said, and his nose, he said, how'd you do all that? And he says, I bit it. And I said, you bit your ear? Get off of that. And he said, no, I had to stand on the chair to do it. But look at Dave Christianson's eye. Yeah. Look at Dave in his eye there. It's a little bit dark. And I said, David, I said, how did you get that black eye? He said, I was trying to help an old lady across the street, elderly lady across the street. Changed it. And I said, you help an elderly lady across the street? You got a black eye? Well, the point was that she didn't want to go. And went in to see Todd. He was in there in the bathtub taking a bath, and the guy really sits in the bathtub and screwed away. You know, most people that I've ever seen sitting in a bathtub, they usually sit facing the faucets, you know. And here he is, he's got his back to the faucet facing the other way. I said, Todd, what are you sitting in the bathtub like that for? And he said, well, don't you know? He says, this bathtub doesn't have a stopper. I said, but remember, they said one thing you never want to do, and that's take a ride with Mike Dreets in the car. He's really wild and getting behind the wheel of the car. And so why is that? He said, well, geez, last week he went through 3 red lights. I said, well, that wasn't too bad. He said, yeah, but 2 of them were the back of a truck. But we got a couple good, happy farm boys here, and one of them, Larry Quintz, he said, Larry said, what is peculiar about farmers? He said, well, I don't know, but he says, I got a poem about farmers, he said, I'd like to tell you what this is. So, okay, here it goes. It went something like this, farmers are a peculiar set, the more they farm, the less they net. And finally, I asked Nathan, what are you going to do when you get big? Are you going to be Well, he says, I don't know. I said, I'm almost sure I'm going to be a farmer. I said, why is that? He said, well, I want to be out standing in my field. Well, that kind of was a rundown of what the kids were doing, and I think, all in all, they pretty well behaved themselves down there. I didn't hear anything bad, so I think that's good. So now we'll go down to the coaches, and we want to get a report about what went on as far as they're concerned. As you know, this year, when we got halfway through the season, our assistant coach got a tremendous honor. He won his 150th game. I think that's quite an honor. I thought that was really quite impressive, but on talking to him about it, he certainly wasn't impressed at all. Gerry, Gingles, and I were trying to encourage him about it. And I said, you know, what would it do to impress you? And we were kind of talking about it. I said, well, I would be very impressed if I got to be talking to the President of the United States. And Gerry said, well, I don't know. He said, I tell you, what would really impress me, he says, if I got to talk to the President of the United States and that hot telephone line rang and he didn't answer. He was too busy talking to me. And Bill said, you know, he said, that would impress me. He says, what would really impress me is that that hot telephone line rang and it was for me. Maybe we'll just go up here and say a few words about his squad and what he expects for next year and so forth.
On the way back, I knew I'd probably have to do this, and I think a lot of things have gone through my mind. This year we had a pretty good year, in that we got 15 guys up here that have really worked. They worked hard in the district week, they worked harder in the region week, And this past week, in the last 3 days, they really put in a real hard week. And I think that I feel like they reap the benefits. Making the tournament, representing you well, and doing a good job down there. And I think you should be very proud of them. But also I'm thinking, and I realize that there's an awful lot that goes behind these 15 that are up here. Number one of the groups of people are the parents. I'd like to thank them for their cooperation and their understanding that they have to go through and all the other things during the season and the weight loss and everything else. I know personally I really appreciate it, because without them it would be a lot tougher. The community and the school, for the support that they've given us throughout the year, I think that's really been great. I appreciate that too. We got 4 cheerleaders here that I think have really done a tremendous job this year, especially during tournament season. Doc said something about what we expect next year. This year, we're losing 6, 7 seniors. I think Gerry and I have talked about it, and I think we're gaining maybe 10 and hopefully more 8th graders coming up to the varsity run. The B squad this year had a record of 14-2. They won the 2 tournaments they were in. And those 26 people that have wrestled in the B squad, I think, plus these 15 here, represent the team, and that group of individuals represent the wrestling team that did such a good job in the tournament down there. And I think the whole team, all of them, deserve a lot of credit. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I think next on the program, before we get to the coach, usually we have the captains come up, and they've always got such an inspiring message for us. I'm sure this year there won't be any exceptions. So Dave and Todd, come on up. Let's hear what you got.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming and watching us. I'd like to thank Fred Fuller, Greg Cockman, and John Noyes for coming up to practice the last 2 weeks. Helped us out quite a bit. Thanks a lot. I want to thank all our fans for coming with great support this year, and the cheerleaders who did an excellent job throughout the season.
I think next we'll introduce the coach, but before we do, it's competition. I think a definition of a good coach is a fellow who takes a little more than his share of the blame and a little less than his share of the credit. And I think this really fits Gerry to a T. However, I think there's some scientific things that really should be told, and I think people should be aware of this. It's been shown that people who are bald in front yet are good thinkers. And people who are bald in the back of their head are good lovers. And people who are bald in both places think they're good lovers. When he comes up here, I want you to pay special attention to his head, because I think a lot could be gained from just observation.
person that's more uncomfortable up here than I am is Coach Bredeson. And the reason is that he has to not only figure out what he's going to say, but he has to tell me what to say. I'll just make a couple observations about the tournament. Last year at this time, when the team came home from the tournament, if you look at the program, there was 3 schools over there that had like 2 seniors apiece, and everybody was looking at them to be the top teams in the state. That would be Goodhue, Painesville, and Waterville Legion. And I think we were right, they were good teams. But over the last year, then Staples, of course, put together another powerhouse like they always do. And then Adrian and Fertile Beltrami and Canby kind of snuck in there. And so this year we had a field of about 7 teams that were very close to being equal. In fact, in the 9 duels that those 7 teams wrestled, 7 of the duels were decided by 10 points or less. And a 10-point duel meet in wrestling is something like an extra point in football. You can look at that and you can think one mistake, one match, 1 coin flip might be the difference. And I think that's the kind of state tournament we had this year. I want to just recognize our captains, Todd and Dave. Would you stand up? These guys have been around a while now, and in the last 2 years, we've had 5 dual meets each year to get through the dual meet tournaments. And I just kind of checking with Coach Bredeson there, and they have compiled 10 wins and 0 losses in those 5 dual meets. They scored 47 team points to 0 for their opponents. Todd Merritt wrestled in his 4th dual meet state tournament. He has an 11-0 record in state dual meet competition. He's now won 113 matches, which makes him tied with Fred Full for the most ever by Canby Wrestling. David Christianson, in the last 2 years, he's gone both ways in the state tournament. Dual and individual, he's wrestled 16 matches, won 14 of them against the very best in the state. Last year, he set a team record of 58 takedowns in one season. This year, he had 112 takedowns, and 23 of them came in the state tournament this last week.
Until we pay him more, that's all he's going to say. Well, I think we're getting kind of close to the end of the program. But this is Sunday, and I don't think you get out of here without a sermon. And I would just like to say that some unfortunate things happened down there, and thank goodness it wasn't from the Canby fans. I was kind of disappointed with one of the teams that we had wrestled, and the team had lost, and the fans and how they were down on the kids just because they had lost the matches. And I was mentioning this to our kids, and I think they had said that they had, and this is not a story, this is a fact, they said that during this heavyweight match that Wayne was wrestling, they couldn't believe what was coming out of even the cheerleaders' mouths, just because this heavyweight was losing to Wayne and it meant that their team was going to lose. I think that's really poor, and I hope and I pray that we never do that, no matter what happens, and I don't think we ever will. And with that, I'll end my sermon. Is there anything else that anyone has before I call on the head man? He's around here somewhere. he's not going to get out of it that easy by running out of He got me into this, and so he's going to do it. Is he coming? All right. He's on his way then. You know, he tells me that he rules the roost in his house. I kind of wonder who rules the rooster. And you know, he told me one time, he said he had an argument with his wife, and he said she came back crawling on her hands and knees. She come back yelling at him, "Get out from under the bed, you coward." But he says that he can argue with his wife, but most of the time words escape him. But I don't think words are going to escape him today, so Mr. Saum, let's hear what...
This should be a day for the team and the cheerleaders and the coaches, and Olson, as usually, it was way too long-winded already. The only comment I have, you know, is that for 9 years we've ruled the roost in this corner of Minnesota in wrestling. If we have our way, we'll rule it for 9 more. And it's been a tremendous accomplishment. There's been an awful lot of work, an awful lot of sacrifice go into it on the part of everybody involved, most of you people here. And it's something you've got to feel real good about. Try to keep this thing short, get these kids home. For them, the state tournament started on Wednesday about noon. They're tired, they're fed up with it. So have a nice day. Thank you.
We have some pictures to give out. I assume they're to be given away. So, as I call your name up, we'll have you come up, find your picture there if you can, and you're welcome to take that home with you. Keep it. So, Todd, would you come up first and find your picture? And find it there? There it is. One of the black. There. Had a t-shirt on. Just made it. You're what on that one, Dave? That's the black eye. Nathan? Oh, Gerry, excuse me. and Gerry. And then lastly, we've got the cheerleaders. Sign in, voters. Bredeson. Shelley Fergus. And Stacy Mortensen. He has to wait till next year. And with that, I guess we'll close our program, and everybody is welcome to get downstairs because we got some treats. Thanks for coming.